Hello there. And now get ready. As I said, I was going to do Frankenstein. Why not? On the golden days of Amadeus. That being the first of Amadeus is Frankenstein. Curse of Frankenstein. Say it again. Curse of Frankenstein. With my mate Peter Tussin and my second mate, that being Christopher Lee as Frankenstein's monster. Now you could say that Frankenstein monster is the making of Christopher Lee, because 1 year after, as we all know, he did Horrors of Dracula, which again appeared Peter Tussin, but in this is Frankenstein. Now, unlike the classic 1931 Frankenstein starring our friend Get Off, unlike the original one where Frankenstein was more of a sympathetic monster played by Bruce Geroff, remember right there, Boris Geroff, that's his name. Unlike that one where he was more of a sympathetic monster, in this one it was the opposite. Now I do know that in the classic 1930s one, the Universal Monster one, he was going to be portrayed as a monster, an evil monster, but they ordered him as being a sympathetic monster, where in this one they did the opposite and did make him a fucking monster. And I like the way they also did it with Frankenstein. Peter Tussin played him. He was definitely a fucking monster. There's a scene in it where he pushes a die, kills a die. Look out, what's behind you? And he pushes him and the poor die falls. I'm not concerned now whether he smashed his head open or he snapped his neck. One way or the other. I'm making it sound gruesome, but this is the golden days of Amadeus. Long Road, he's going around, taking body parts. I make it sound gruesome, it's not that gruesome. And basically trying to make a monster. This is kind of typical of most of the Frankenstein films. But Curse of Frankenstein, what can I say? It's not a bad one. He just killed one during it. Again, you see it off stream because you're now talking about the 1950s. Long Road, you get the fulfillment of the Frankenstein monster, played by none other, the legend himself, may he also rest in peace, Christopher Lee. It's a bit late for Christopher Lee, and it's interesting to see him play a role where he's playing a monster. I do know over the years that he's took the mickey out of that role. I've seen him in a comedy show once, not making this up, where he's basically acting like the monster and basically taking mickey out of the role what he did back in the golden days of 1957 when he made his big break. Now you got to understand that Amadeus was basically more of a remake. There was more remake in the golden days of fucking, the golden days of fucking Universal monster films. And at the time nobody would have thought that nobody could take the role of Boris Geroff, that's his fucking name. No, Boris Geroff. That's it. Boris Geroff. Nobody could ever fit that role, but it's interesting to see other people over the years take that role and make it their own. And I feel that, in my eyes, Christopher Lee did that. He definitely portrayed as being a monster, especially one scene where you get the fulfillment, like he does that and he does that. Very frightening. Then he gets away, as we know, and you get the idea that he kills a blind man. Happy to say you don't see it in screen. You see him falling on the floor and the monster's going near. You got to feel he's going to attack this poor blind fella. You get an idea that, oh no, he's not going to kill a kid there, but happy to say, different era, different time. Unlike the original 1931 Frankenstein film where you do see that, but again, it was professionally done. And it was more of a sympathetic monster. In this, Christopher Lee played him exactly like what he was. A fucking beast, a monster. There's a bit in it where he gets wounded, he gets shot in the face, and then he wanders off. You know what I mean? He wanders off, but he doesn't exactly get killed, and almost until the end, where he attacks our friend, that being Peter Tussin. There's a funny scene though where he attacks a woman, it cuts away, you think he's going to attack the woman. Then you get Peter Tussin as Frankenstein munching on a fire up. He's munching on a fire up, getting stuck into the next scene. That's what I mean. He's a fucking monster. Is as much of a monster, let's say, as the Horrors of Frankenstein? No, I felt he was more psychotic. But Peter Tussin plays a pretty good role, and he just plays that role in a lot of other Frankenstein films, whether it would be The Return of Frankenstein and other Frankenstein films like Frankenstein the Monster, where Peter Tussin just makes his last appearance as Frankenstein. It's not a bad one, and it's not bad for Hammer House. You can definitely see why it was back in that era, why Hammer House decided to do remakes of the classic Universal films. Let's not forget one thereafter. Christopher Lee became Dracula and took over from Ben Bedostis' Dracula, and you know, it was Horrors of Dracula. So basically that's what it were. The Hammer House were more the British version of Universal monster films, but basically, and nicely putting it, they made them more fucking horror. They made them more horror for London, and it was made for London, and you can see that a lot of London actors and a lot of British actors from the 1950s. For the 50s, I do actually like the makeup they put on Christopher Lee. Definitely makes him look fucking different. Definitely makes him look like a fucking monster. And I like that. I mean, I like it. And you do get an ending, like I say, right? You get an ending where the tats of Peter Tussin, right? He's telling the story, you know, him and his mate's pretty disgusted. You know, he's disgusted in what he's doing. You know, it's very similar to the Horrors of Frankenstein, really. Not only not as gruesome. Then again, for 1957, you're not going to get arms getting cut off. You're not going to get seeing too much, but you know, you get the idea. And you know, he basically tries to kill his mate. I think he does actually kill his mate. I could be right and wrong there, but that's his outdoing. He gets caught, and you got the idea that he's going to get. You know, these are the days where you could get hung. I'm not sure he's going to get hung or he was going to get beheaded. I think he was going to get beheaded. You know, the to the teen era when you get beheaded. One, he was either going to get hung or get the guillotine. You know, this was in the olden times. And you got, you know what I mean, and at the time you got one dying, he's disgusted in what Frankenstein does. And he basically gets him, he trips him up, all the way through the film, it's got him telling the story that he's about to get, you know, crucified. He was in the days, like I say, where he's either going to get, I think he was going to get the guillotine actually, where he's about to get guillotined because of the times what he did. He says, no, I didn't do it. And basically, his mate fucks him off. He's got a saddle of the guillotine going up, and you basically think, is Peter Tussin, is Frankenstein, going to get the guillotine? But as you know, if you've ever seen the foil up, that being Return of Frankenstein, you know, that never happened. And even seen in that when he mentions, I was close to getting the guillotine, but I managed to get away with it. I'm overdoing it there, but yeah, but you know, for the early one of Hammer House, for the first one, that being Horrors of Frankenstein, it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one. It's a good one. I mean, I didn't do it as long as what I do in most of my films, but because there's not really a lot to say about it. You know, Christopher Lee, like I say, does a good role, gets killed at the end. But in this one, did I really feel sympathetic? Not really, because I thought he was a fucking beast. He was definitely more of a monster, not at all like how Martin Getoff played in the classic days of the Universal one, where he made you much more sympathetic for Frankenstein. In this, he was a fucking beast, he was a monster. He was a fucking monster. That's how I see it. But other than that, that's Horrors of Frankenstein back in 1957. Definitely made a lot of other classic Universal films. Definitely made an iconic name for Christopher Lee. One thereafter, like I said, about Pete himself. Did Horrors of Dracula. Definitely launched our friend, that being Peter Tussin. Other than that, see you later.